one of the things, just in my own personal story, I was telling you a little bit about my background earlier, but in addition to growing up in a lot of these, a lot of predominantly white spaces where I was the only or one of very few African Americans, also growing up in very sort of Christian, white evangelical spaces, and so there was this whole other spiritual component to that. I grew up in a family that was also very religious, very faithful, and so this idea of forgiveness was always part of our culture, our upbringing, our faith life, but also a sense of like giving folks the benefit of the doubt. And so in my experience, the idea of giving people the benefit of the doubt often ended up looking like excusing racist things that I would experience because, you know, the bar was like very, like you had to have like a white hood in your bed, you know, in order to be labeled racist. And so, and what in my adult life I've realized is while there was a certain element that I think because of the generation that had come before me that was like survival maybe oriented, it still came at a cost to me. It came at a cost to my mental, emotional health, my sense of well-being, my sense of self, to give the benefit of the doubt, to excuse, because then if what they were saying was not an offense, then that meant that there was something defective about me. And so I guess I just want to, and this is not completely analogous to what you were saying, but I did want to press this notion of the cost of forgiveness, because in order to unilaterally say that I am going to forgive to someone, that does kind of come at a cost, and it's not analogous to what I just described, what you were saying, but I think that element of you are then sort of bearing, the consequences of someone else's hurt. And so I would like actually to bring both of you in, but again, my economist brain is tingling when you start to give these analogies between indebtedness and offense, and then of course forgiveness of debt. And so can you talk a little bit about just this cost concept?
Sure. I mean, I really do think it is the best way to understand forgiveness is to understand it as the eating of a cost. And if we think about that, it is difficult when you think of how long our lives could be and how many occasions we might have where we need to forgive. That is a lot of cost eating. And I completely agree with Michelle in the sense that this is an essentially unilateral thing. Like, you don't have any control over whether even the person who wronged you actually thinks that what they did was wrong. No guarantee of that. That person may not, as the example was given, that person may not even be alive anymore. But that harm is still there. And this is also where my religious convictions come in too, because when we're talking about forgiveness, we're talking about mercy. And to live a life where the only thing that is expected of you throughout your entire life is to show mercy, that's gonna wear on you. Yeah. If every time that you're wronged, the response is, well, you don't have any control over what that other person does, and so what's on you is the responsibility to forgive. When that's the only thing that's going on in your mind, that'll wear on you. And so that then needs to be paired with, and this is, I think, something that's also essential to the Christian faith, paired with a deep commitment to justice. Now, what that does not mean is a deep commitment to me needing to reach out and grasp that justice. Because the fact of the matter is that I may not know even what that looks like. Like, I don't know if somebody wrongs, like if somebody, let's say, hypothetical situation. A man comes into my household, kills my wife and children, and then kills themselves. What does justice, what could justice look like?
I agree.
In that space? I don't know. And one of the things that lies at the very center of the Christian faith is that in what Christ does on the cross, what you see is what you see is the joining of mercy and justice in a way that we could not imagine. But in it is also the promise that even though we may not see how justice could take place, the Lord has some plan for it, and that there is a deep promise that will take place. That is one, at least for me. That's what then equips me to then be able to show the mercy that's been shown to me. So this is also what undergirds what is now kind of my thoroughgoing commitment, particularly to nonviolence. And the refusal to take revenge. Because one of the things that taking revenge does, particularly if someone attacks me and I kill them, is that what I'm communicating in that action is there is no chance for your redemption, and so I'm going to end your life. I'm not in a position, based on the assumptions, based on the assumptions that I have, where I can make that claim. And so this is an extremely difficult space to be in, and difficult thing to be consistent about. But for me, it is only possible in a world where I know that justice is coming, even though I may not know the particular shape that it takes.
So Malcolm, I'm going to totally disagree. I held back over our conversation. I don't think forgiveness, when it comes in the right way and is genuine, I don't think it's eating a cost. It's transformative in a way that brings goods to you, experiences and value to your life that you could not have appreciated before. I don't think you're giving something up, but you're gaining something. I will actually say, in the one case in my life where I realized I wish I had forgiven more of someone before they died, when I finally said, I needed to do this and I should have done this, and then I could see all these things about the person's good things they'd done for me that I had been clouded. This is actually a relative, where I had interpreted everything through, you're a bad, mean person, you're this, you're that, and suddenly there was a weight lifted off my shoulder. Yeah. And I could even remember someone saying, forgive this person because here's what they went through when they were young. Yeah. I didn't fully appreciate the weight of that. So I want to resist, and I guess I want to say, I don't think you can expect justice, here I do agree with you, to come through forgiveness. Justice is separate. G. Walker, the woman who lost her son in that racist attack in Liverpool, she was ready to forgive. I think it was almost instantaneous. Yeah. But she was at the courtroom every day when the people who attacked her son were being tried, and she said, they need to be punished. Yeah. These are two separate things. And she said, my forgiveness of them is about my place in the world. Yeah. The community needs to hold them to account for what they did, and I can't administer justice. Yeah,
so that's good. I'll be brief, and then you can do a follow up. I think that it is. I think that forgiveness offers I'll say a comparative benefit. that is me choosing not to forgive does more harm to me than choosing to forgive. So even though it is an eating of a cost, there is a more significant harm that can be done to me than the eating of a cost. That cost, as in like the very presence of that debt, can turn me into the kind of person that I don't want to be turned into. And so even though I frame forgiveness as the eating of a cost, that compared to what will happen to me if I do not forgive, there's a significant gulf between those two things, to the extent that I will and actually ought to experience forgiveness in a number of ways as a freeing, because if I can, and this is why it's good that you narrated forgiveness as a process, because in that initial moment, I mean, that pain is still going to be there. It's going to come back and in waves sometimes. Exactly. Yeah. And so, but one of the things that I think we do even in those moments is we sometimes have to constantly remind ourselves that that we have reckoned that debt to not exist anymore.
Yeah.
Because it will keep it'll keep kind of popping up. Right. It's like, remember this? Remember this? Yeah. Remember this? It's like, yes, I do, but I've reckoned that debt to be null and void. Sometimes that's a constant work that we have to engage in.